Because I'm not racing this week, it's next week that I'm racing, I thought I'd go through and show you what I've done to get these race bikes to where they are. Now, both these bikes are at the 2012 Hyosung 650. It's a V-twin 650, so it fits in the Formula 3 class of motorcycle racing in Tassie. This is the same bike, but an early model. This one's got carbs. I've got this one set up with intermediate tyres. So if the track gets wet, then that'll do it. I've also got some wet tyres if it's raining. Okay, now this is the bike that I spend most of my time on. It's been slightly modified. The foot pegs are gone. I have set it up so that it can be raced. Just need a few bits of wire on it to finish it. They come with a fairing, bottom part of the fairing here, but to race the bike you need to have a belly pan, a sealed belly pan, and so the Hyosung lower fairing doesn't fit that. So to save money, I've removed that lower fairing. I've just left the upper part of the fairing. It just makes it cheaper. I've spent about a total of around $2,000 purchasing the bike second hand, buying the slick tyres. I couldn't give you an exact cost, but it's around $2,000. Bought slick tyres for the front and back as I got faster. The ECU has been tuned by someone in South Australia. It doesn't give a lot more power, but a little bit more power than normal. In a race scenario, it's still not competitive, but it's getting closer. The videos you see with a front view, the camera screws on here. The cable is a precautionary thing required by the track. When you see the rear view, where I can see my riding position better, and also you see my bum, but that's where it mounts on here, and that gives me a good idea whether I'm moving my body on the bike where I want to be. With the brake pads, I used a sintered pad originally because they are better when they heat up. I changed that to some carbon pads, which are far superior. They cost a little bit more than the sintered pads. They have to be warmed up before they work properly, but they're much better brakes. They stop you much quicker and they're easier to use on the track. Recently I've had ground clearance problems as I'm cornering the right hand corners. What I found was this part here was rubbing, so I actually pushed the exhaust pipe in, moved it inwards, and I haven't taken on the track since I've made that adjustment, so I think that will help me with my right hand turns. If something rubs, then it plays on your mind, so you need clearance. Hyosung have an adjustment for your foot pegs, so you can set them up and to the rear. I've gone as far back and as far up as I can. That's a standard rear shock. They're not adjustable. The only adjustment is the preload, which I've played around a little bit with, but no big change there. I tried doing a couple of things with the forks. I tried making them harder. It didn't work, so I went back to the original fork. The original fork is fine. I tried too much damping, mucked around with the damping. As you get faster, these sort of things make a bit more difference, and you can play with those. Softening the damping a bit actually made it corner better. I changed the coolant because on the track you're not allowed to have glycol coolant because it's slippery, so I went to a non-glycol racing coolant. That was the modification I made there. Didn't make a difference to the running of the vehicle. When I first made this track bike, I found that sports tyres were better on the back because the slick tyres need to be kept warm with a higher speed. When I got down to a certain point, I found that the slick tyres were staying warm at my pace. This is a Bridgestone RO2 style tyre 165 630 17. It's an old technology, but the tyres still last well. On the front, originally with the track bike, I used sports tyres. Then I got to a certain speed and did the same thing. I went to a slick tyre. This is a Pirelli Diablo, which someone gave me. I used that, and I also used the Bridgestone VO2s 120, and they were the same for me. When I went to slicks, I found I needed tyre warmers to bring the tyres up to temperature before I go out on the track, and these tyres have a certain number of heat cycles, so you don't want the tyre on the ground. You also need these paddock stands. These are homemade ones. You need the paddock stands to keep the tyre off the ground to prevent it going through heat cycles with the concrete warming up and cooling down, but also to put the tyre warmers on. You need the tyres off the ground. One thing with racing, you can do this on a track bike, but on a race bike you need to remove the centre and side stand. So without the centre and side stand, you need to have at least a rear paddock stand to hold the bike up.